6 months after graduation, having quit on 7 different bosses, Jiang Ximing was thrown into his family's entertainment company by his older brother, Jiang Xiqing, and became a model. Jiang Xiqing's exact words were, "Since you can't make a living with your skills, you'll have to rely on your looks. Waste not, want not, right?" Jiang Ximing protested, "I'm a top graduate from Qing University." "You're proud of Qing University, but Qing University is ashamed of you. Don't tarnish its reputation." Jiang Xiqing was always sharp-tongued. Jiang Ximing felt wronged. "Brother, you're hurting me." "What? Looking for comfort?" Jiang Xiqing sneered. "Don't waste your time. I only hurt you and laugh it off. Now pack up and get to the set. Go directly to Wan Xiangyi. I've already spoken with her." Jiang Ximing clicked his tongue, heading for the door. As he stepped out, he poked his head back in and made a face at Jiang Xiqing, grumbling, "Selling out your own brother, you're an evil capitalist." After finishing, he quickly shut the door and dashed off. Only after hearing something thud against the door did he cheerfully hum a tune as he made his way to the set. Wan Xiangyi, mentioned by Jiang Xiqing, was currently the hottest photographer in the fashion industry. She had a distinctive style, was skilled at observing people, and could capture and present a person's unique traits in unforgettable photos. As a result, many celebrities had their magazine covers shot by her. Anyone photographed by her, if already famous, would become even more so. If not, they would instantly shoot to fame. Jiang Ximing hadn't paid attention to such things before, only having heard Wan Xiangyi's name a few times from Jiang Xiqing. At the set, he wouldn't have recognized Wan Xiangyi if an assistant hadn't led him to her. Though Wan Xiangyi's work was well known, and she photographed some of the biggest stars, she herself kept a low profile, rarely appearing in public. There weren't even any photos of her online. "You're Wan Xiangyi? Wan the photographer?" Jiang Ximing asked in disbelief. The woman before him, dressed in a minimalist style, didn't seem much older than him. She had fair skin, a plain face, and her eyes carried a laziness and stubbornness not often seen in other girls, giving her a naturally aloof and indifferent aura. Wan Xiangyi didn't reply. She stared at him for a long time before lowering her head to continue adjusting her camera equipment. "We'll start shooting soon." Jiang Ximing nodded but suddenly felt a bit uneasy, unsure whether to continue speaking or just stay silent. Just then, Jiang Xiqing called, asking if he had met Wan Xiangyi. Jiang Ximing stepped aside and said, "Brother, why didn't you tell me Wan Xiangyi is so young? She seems pretty cold. How did you convince her to take my photos? She was staring at me earlier, and it creeped me out. You didn't make some sort of deal with her, did you?" "Jiang Ximing," Jiang Xiqing shouted. "How else is she supposed to photograph you? Wan Xiangyi hates chatterboxes the most. If you dare mess up this shoot, I'll skin you alive." Jiang Ximing, intimidated, quickly agreed. No joke. When his brother got angry, the destruction was like a typhoon. But he still cautiously asked, "Brother, I've heard the entertainment industry is full of shady deals. I won't run into anything like that, right?" The sound of deep breathing on the other end made Jiang Ximing shiver. He was about to apologize when a cold female voice cut in, "At least not with me. I'm not interested in idiots." Wan Xiangyi then spoke loudly into the phone, "Senior, you didn't mention I'd be photographing an idiot. I'll have to increase the fee by 1%. Jiang Ximing stood frozen. He hadn't even made any money yet, and now he had caused his brother to lose some. Would he kill him for this? Wan Xiangyi had finished setting up her equipment, glanced around, and confirmed that the lighting was just right for the shoot. But Jiang Ximing wasn't ready yet. The assistant apologized profusely to the stylist, and then turned to explain to Jiang Ximing. "Mingji, the theme for this shoot is Youth in Bloom. It's a small flower, just clipped to your ear. It won't affect your masculinity at all." But Jiang Ximing wasn't the type to be reasoned with. "I'm not wearing it. Even a small flower is still a flower." The assistant was about to try persuading him again when Wan Xiangyi walked over. Quickly trying to smooth things over, the assistant said, "Wan Laosher, Mingji will be ready in just a moment. Almost there." Wan Xiangyi motioned for both the assistant and the stylist to leave. Once it was just the two of them, she said to Jiang Ximing, "Either wear it or leave now." Jiang Ximing, spoiled all his life, had never been spoken to like this by anyone other than his older brother. Wan Xiangyi was the first. While most people can be coaxed, Jiang Ximing was the opposite. He only responded to tough love, especially now, with no one around to back him up. So, after hearing Wan Xiangyi's words, he immediately toned down his attitude, biting his lip and asking pitifully, "Do I really have to wear it?" Wan Xiangyi glanced at him. "You are worried about industry unspoken rules, and now you're afraid of a little flower?" Embarrassed by his earlier careless comment, Jiang Ximing quickly picked up the flower and clipped it to his ear. "How's that? Even with a flower, I still look manly, right?" Jiang Ximing asked, looking at Wan Xiangyi as if fishing for praise. Quick to flare up and even quicker to back down, Jiang Ximing was exactly that kind of person. Wan Xiangyi, someone who always stood firm, found herself at a loss when faced with someone so shamelessly without principles. After a moment, she regained her composure and instructed Jiang Ximing on how to adjust the flower for the effect she wanted in the photos. Jiang Ximing asked, "Which way?" "Move it forward a bit. Just clip the stem lightly on your ear and show the whole flower," Wan Xiangyi said. After 2 failed attempts, Jiang Ximing gave up and handed her the flower. "You do it." His hands were elegant, with distinct joints, pale and slender, the kind of hands that could drive hand enthusiasts wild with just one photo. And as it happened, Wan Xiangyi was a hand enthusiast. Staring at his hands, momentarily entranced, she reached out to take the flower and even overcame her usual aversion to physical contact, personally clipping it in place. The entire shoot went smoothly, finishing in just over an hour. This was, of course, a testament to Wan Xiangyi's skill. She hadn't added any artificial lighting or reflectors, not even using a flash. She relied entirely on natural light. Jiang Ximing didn't even realize the shoot was happening before it was over. Throughout the process, Wan Xiangyi hadn't asked him to pose deliberately. She only had him sit on the couch by the window and relax as he normally would. The only request she made was for him to suddenly turn his head and smile at her, which he did, and that was it. "We're done already?" Jiang Ximing still couldn't believe it. Wan Xiangyi merely nodded, focusing on packing up her equipment. Wan Xiangyi always handled her own equipment, and everyone knew not to touch her things. But oblivious Jiang Ximing cluelessly offered his help. She didn't stop him, merely watching coldly. His sudden change in behavior had to have a reason. Sure enough, after everything was packed up, Jiang Ximing grinned and asked, "Can I work with you from now on?" "Why?" Wan Xiangyi asked. "Because you didn't make any demands on me. I'm still full of energy after the shoot. With other photographers, they make me wear all kinds of weird makeup and order me to pose this way and that. I feel like a puppet, and every shoot drains half my life." It turned out Jiang Ximing had already done a few other shoots before this one, and compared to those experiences, Wan Xiangyi's approach was like a breath of fresh air. Having finally found someone to vent to, he rambled on about his frustrations. Wan Xiangyi listened, expressionless, and when he finished, she said only 2 words. "No." Jiang Ximing quickly asked, "Why?" Wan Xiangyi glanced at him but didn't answer, leaving without another word. After that photo shoot, Jiang Ximing never saw Wan Xiangyi again, but she had indeed made him an overnight sensation. As soon as the Youth in Bloom themed photos were released, Jiang Ximing shot to the top of the trending searches. His popularity soared, and endorsement deals came flooding in. To truly capture someone's essence, you need Wan Xiangyi, Jiang Xiqing said, handing a tablet to Jiang Ximing. She doesn't just photograph faces, she captures the person's aura, something not just any photographer can achieve. Jiang Ximing looked at the photos on the tablet, remaining silent. The series of photos employed a minimalist approach, with no obvious signs of post-processing. The overall effect was fresh, natural, warm, and soothing. A young man in a white shirt sat on a couch, with a small daisy clipped to his ear, adding a touch of playful mischief to his relaxed demeanor. He seemed to be responding to someone calling him, turning his head and smiling. The soft, shifting light on his face highlighted his pure and clean youthfulness to the fullest. Previous photographers had focused solely on Jiang Ximing's lively, cheerful personality, trying to project his sunny image, resulting in a somewhat repetitive portrayal. Suddenly, Jiang Ximing felt a strong urge to see Wan Xiangyi, to discuss this set of photos, or perhaps talk about something else entirely. But after pestering Jiang Xiqing for a long time, he still couldn't get Wan Xiangyi's phone number. "No way," Jiang Ximing protested. "At first, I thought she was a bit aloof, but she wasn't that hard to get along with." Without looking up from his documents, Jiang Xiqing replied, "She has 3 rules when shooting. First, no one touches her equipment. But she's really talented, so these quirks can be chalked up to artistic temperament. Don't bother her." There were models before who tried to cozy up to her or made demands, and they all ended up blacklisted by her. Their entire agencies suffered the consequences. Jiang Ximing, thinking back to his behavior on set, felt a bit uneasy. "Why didn't you tell me all this before the shoot, Ge?" "I forgot," Jiang Xiqing responded nonchalantly. Then, as if something had occurred to him, he sat up straight and looked at Jiang Ximing. "You didn't break any of her rules, did you?" Feeling guilty, but refusing to admit it, Jiang Ximing said, "No way. You know me, I wouldn't dare get too close to her when she looks that intimidating." Jiang Xiqing relaxed. "Good. Just so you know, apart from being a bit eccentric, she's fine. Honestly, considering what she's been through at home, it's impressive she turned out the way she did." Her family? Their Wan family? Jiang Ximing's mind was racing. "You mean Wan Real Estate?" Jiang Xiqing nodded. "She's the youngest daughter of their Wan family. Given all the drama in that household over the years, she's probably the most normal one." Their Wan family was well known in Haishur, but it wasn't their Wan Real Estate brand that made them famous. It was the endless scandals of the family's patriarch, Wan Haigua. He had been married 5 times, with each wife bearing him a child, so his 5 children all had different mothers. It was said that the siblings had never been close since childhood, and in recent years, their power struggles within the company had been vicious. The fact that Wan Real Estate hadn't collapsed yet was considered a miracle in the industry. Now that he knew her family background, Jiang Ximing suddenly felt that Wan Xiangyi's coldness and detachment might not be innate, but rather a result of an emotional void. Perhaps that's why she was more sensitive, more delicate, and better at capturing the beauty in people. But she observed and expressed this beauty through the lens, so distant, so lonely. Perhaps it was true that what you think about constantly will eventually come to pass. Jiang Ximing ran into Wan Xiangyi again, this time in the elevator of the Carey Hotel. He was there for an audition, while she was there for a blind date, or more accurately, being forced into one. Wan Xiangmei was impeccably made up and dressed in a sharp business suit, exuding an aura of efficiency and competence. She cast a disapproving glance at Wan Xiangyi, who was barefaced and casually dressed. If it weren't for pressure from their Wan family, do you think the media would really keep any information about you from leaking? All these years, you've been able to freely pursue your photography only because you've had their Wan family's backing. So, you should show some gratitude. Dress like this. Whose face are you trying to lose? Jiang Ximing stood in front of the two, unable to see Wan Xiangmei's expression, but he could hear the arrogance in her tone. Wan Xiangyi remained silent, so Wan Xiangmei continued, "Knowing you wouldn't cooperate, I had someone prepare clothes and jewelry for you. Go freshen up before you meet anyone. The person you're meeting today is the youngest son of Chairman Wu. The Wu Group has been a long-time partner of their Wan family, so don't make any trouble for me. After all, this is the only use you have for their Wan family, wouldn't you agree?" She finished with a sneer. Wan Xiangyi still didn't say a word. But Jiang Ximing couldn't take it any longer. He pulled out his phone and called Jiang Xiqing, asking directly, "Go, would you ever use me for a marriage alliance?" After asking, he put the call on speaker. There was a confused grunt from the other end of the line, followed by Jiang Shiqing's exasperated voice. What are you even talking about? Have you been watching too many soap operas? Where's all this talk of marriage alliances coming from? Aren't you supposed to be at an audition? Stop asking such nonsense, and hang up. Jiang Shiming quickly interjected. Go, I'm serious. Answer me. Jiang Shiqing paused, then his tone became more solemn. Jiang Shiming, our family doesn't have a throne to pass on, nor do we need to consolidate power through marriage. There's no need for you to be part of a marriage alliance. Besides, do you think your dad and I work so hard to make money just to be forced into situations like that? Use that brain of yours that Qingda trained. The message was clear, but Jiang Shiming still shamelessly pressed for reassurance. So, go. You wouldn't use me for a marriage alliance, right? Jiang Shiqing sighed. It's not that I wouldn't. The point is, even if there were a marriage alliance, as long as the other party has a functioning brain, they'd choose me over you. Besides, a marriage alliance isn't a grudge match. Sending someone as dim-witted as you. He didn't finish his sentence, but Jiang Shiming quickly blurted out, Go, I love you, before hanging up. The elevator fell silent again, and Jiang Shiming felt his face burning. He had intended to embarrass Wan Xiangmei, but it seemed he had managed to embarrass himself as well. Now that he had cooled down, he felt a bit of fear creeping in, fear that Wan Xiangyi might not appreciate his interference. But he had never been one to swallow his anger. He often exploded in the moment, only to realize afterward that his actions might not have been entirely justified. He didn't dwell on it for long, though, as the elevator soon reached its destination. Wan Xiangmei took a few steps out, glaring at Jiang Shiming before she exited first. But Wan Xiangyi didn't follow. She remained in the elevator, giving Wan Xiangmei a nonchalant smile. You were wrong. I don't even have that much use. As the elevator doors closed again, only Wan Xiangyi and Jiang Shiming remained. Wan Xiangyi often made a conscious effort to forget the faces of the people she photographed. This allowed her to avoid fixating on any one face, enabling her to quickly identify unique features in every new subject she encountered. But Jiang Shiming's face, those hands, and his unparalleled personality, she remembered them all too well. Even though she had rationally declined his request and promptly severed their contact, she couldn't erase him from her mind. So the moment he entered the elevator, she recognized him instantly, though she had no intention of greeting him. But then he stood up for her, and the feeling of being protected, something she hadn't felt in years, surprised her. I didn't cause you any trouble with my actions just now, did I? Jiang Shiming asked, a little apprehensive. No, thank you, Wan Xiangyi replied, as concise as ever. Jiang Shiming scratched his head. No need to thank me. If she bullies you again, I'll help you deal with her. And if I can't handle it, I'll get my brother to help. Wan Xiangyi didn't respond, staring at the elevator doors as if lost in thought. Jiang Shiming, trying to gauge the situation, asked tentatively, Where are you heading now? Home, Wan Xiangyi replied. I can take you, he offered. No need. Jiang Shiming let out a small, oh, and turned his gaze away, reaching out to press the elevator button. In front of others, he was always outgoing, easily turning into a chatterbox. Even if rejected, he would bounce back with even more determination. But with Wan Xiangyi, he felt like he was at a loss for words, frustrated by his inability to speak while simultaneously feeling a strong urge to say something, anything. Wan Xiangyi instinctively glanced at his hands, still as beautiful as ever, yet she somehow detected a hint of dejection in them. Reading emotions through hands? Wan Xiangyi smiled inwardly at her growing obsession with hands, but explained aloud, You still have your audition. Jiang Shiming's eyes lit up, and he quickly seized the opportunity. Then how about you wait for me? After my audition, I can take you home. Wan Xiangyi wanted to refuse, but when she met his eager gaze, she gave a barely noticeable nod. He always seemed to make her break her own rules. You agreed, no backing out, Jiang Shiming said cheerfully. Now, give me your phone number so I don't lose track of you later. Wan Xiangyi recited a string of numbers. Jiang Ximing happily noted them down, his energy and enthusiasm returning in full force. Wan Xiangyi was reminded of a Pekingese dog she once had. It was usually very lively and noisy, and when she scolded it, it would look at her with big, watery eyes, full of such pitiful emotion that she couldn't stay mad. But the moment she treated it kindly, it would start wagging its tail and prancing around her, being clingy and affectionate. Jiang Ximing was just like her little Pekingese. Jiang Ximing went for his audition while Wan Xiangyi waited outside. When he rushed out after the audition, he almost bumped into her. Seeing her, he finally slowed down and walked over. "I was afraid you'd leave." "I didn't," Wan Xiangyi replied. Jiang Ximing let out a sigh of relief, his face lighting up with a smile. "I did really well in there. I'm pretty sure I'll get the endorsement, but honestly, I think no one could photograph me as well as you did. I showed the photos you took of me to my mom. She loved them so much that she wants to have them enlarged and displayed in our living room. My brother will be so jealous." He seemed to have regained his chatterbox nature, talking nonstop without needing a response from Wan Xiangyi. What he talked about were things Wan Xiangyi had never experienced: the warmth of a home, the care of a family. In the Wan family, the children had the same father but different mothers, so they were never close. Yet they seemed united in their dislike for her, never including her in their activities. When she was younger, she tried to befriend them, reaching out to hold their hands, but they always pushed her away. After being rejected enough times, she learned to act indifferent, even though she still longed for warmth. She pretended not to care, not needing anything. And so, she grew up in solitude, cold and detached. Watching Jiang Ximing chatter away, she suddenly asked, "What's the password to your bank card?" Without thinking, Jiang Ximing answered, 199503. "No wonder your brother says you're dumb." Wan Xiangyi couldn't help but laugh after she said that. She laughed so hard that tears nearly came out. Jiang Ximing looked at her, feeling wronged. After she finished laughing, she defended herself. "I don't just tell anyone. I only told you because you asked. So, I've told you my bank card password. Shouldn't you exchange a secret with me?" Wan Xiangyi was quick to respond. "You asked," I answered. "It's a fair deal. When did this become a matter of exchange?" "That's not fair." Jiang Ximing leaned against the wall, blocking her path. "When you asked, I wasn't on guard, so it wasn't a fair exchange. You took advantage of me, so now you have to exchange something with me." Wan Xiangyi looked at him, saying nothing. He really was the younger brother of Jiang Xicheng, that cunning fox. Even if he seemed harmless on the outside, deep down he was still shrewd. From how he dealt with Wan Xiangmei to how he was trying to trap her now, he didn't miss a beat. "I take back what I said about you being dumb," Wan Xiangyi remarked. Jiang Ximing paused, then proudly lifted his chin. "I'm not dumb. I'm smart. Yes, you're very clever, both at arguing and at trapping me," Wan Xiangyi said, her tone carrying a deeper meaning. No, I actually learned all this from my brother. He says when you argue, you should subtly insult the person so that even if they know you're talking about them, they can't really fight back." Jiang Ximing quickly shifted the blame to his elder brother. "But I'm not trying to trap you. The conversation just naturally led us here." Wan Xiangyi smiled, choosing not to say more, and simply asked, "So, what do you want to know?" "Anything. Whatever you feel like saying," Jiang Ximing replied, adding, "But don't say there's nothing you want to share." That day, Wan Xiangyi decided to treat it like a game she had lost, opting for honesty. She told Jiang Ximing things she had never shared with anyone before, revealing the loneliness she had never voiced. Only then did she realize that words she thought she would never say aloud were simply waiting for the right person to hear them. Since then, Wan Xiangyi started receiving frequent calls and messages from Jiang Ximing. Her life, which had been as dull and monotonous as stagnant water, became lively and colorful because of him. Jiang Ximing seemed to be curious about everything related to her. He would ask what she liked and disliked, what she was doing today, what she did yesterday, and what she planned to do tomorrow. Wan Xiangyi, with her calm personality, had little passion for anything other than photography. Her work, if it could even be called that, was rather uninteresting, so her answers were almost always the same, just trivial things like what she ate, what music she listened to, or what books she read. But Jiang Ximing never found it boring and would tirelessly chat with her, like a clingy little Pekingese. Through these endless mundane conversations and late-night chats, he introduced her to a world she had never known before, filling her life with the warmth of human connection that she had never experienced. At first, Wan Xiangyi didn't pay much attention to it. But then she noticed that whatever she mentioned to Jiang Ximing, he would post similar things on his social media the next day. What he ate, drank, everything mirrored what she had mentioned. Is my life so interesting that it's worth imitating? Wan Xiangyi asked him in a video call. This was Jiang Ximing's request. He said he didn't like texting and that conversations should be face-to-face. Jiang Ximing answered honestly, I just want to do the same things as you. Eat the same things. Wan Xiangyi frowned. Are you an Aries? You even know my zodiac sign. Does that mean you like me? Jiang Ximing's face was full of anticipation, with a hint of shyness. Wan Xiangyi rolled her eyes. I just heard that Aries are supposed to be pretty silly, and you're practically a new level of silly. You must have heard wrong. Jiang Ximing put on a serious expression. Aries men are great, especially when it comes to love. We're very loyal. We don't give up easily. We won't stop until we've tried everything, and we'll keep going even when we hit a dead end. We're the type to hang on to one person no matter what. Aries, you deserve one. Wan Xiangyi summarized, that doesn't sound like a good thing. Seeing that she hadn't caught the main point, Jiang Ximing looked hurt, leaning closer to the screen and staying silent for a while. Wan Xiangyi ignored him and continued editing her photos on the computer. When she finally finished and looked up, she met Jiang Ximing's pitiful gaze. She asked calmly, Do you like me? His actions had made his feelings clear to anyone with eyes, and Wan Xiangyi certainly wasn't clueless. Jiang Ximing was startled by the question. Instead of answering, he quickly said, Wait for me, before abruptly ending the video call. When the doorbell rang, Wan Xiangyi could have guessed with her toes who it was. She opened the door and, as expected, saw Jiang Ximing, panting heavily. He said, I was afraid that if I said it online, you'd reject me without a second thought. But now that I'm here in front of you, you have to at least feel a little sympathy for me. You can't just flat out refuse. Otherwise, I'll cry right here. He paused, then more seriously said, Wan Xiangyi, I like you. Will you go out with me? Wan Xiangyi was silent, staring at him. The boy's expression was earnest, his tone sincere. Though he appeared shy and nervous, he forced himself to remain calm as he looked at her, a mix of proud arrogance and subtle naivety adding an irresistible charm. After a long moment, Wan Xiangyi shifted aside and asked, Do you want to come in? Jiang Ximing was taken aback, but then nodded repeatedly and followed her inside. He had been worried that she might coldly say thank you and send him away. The fact that she asked him in seemed like a positive sign. Once inside, Wan Xiangyi said, Take off your jacket. Jiang Ximing's face instantly turned bright red. Clutching the edge of his jacket, he stammered, Take off my clothes? Is this moving too fast? Wan Xiangyi glanced at him with a detached expression. You're thinking of something else, aren't you? I don't dislike you, but I also don't know what it means to like someone. I've never been close to anyone growing up. My mother ignored me, and my older siblings didn't pay any attention to me. At first, I longed for their kisses and hugs, but eventually, I became afraid of physical contact and warm touches. I've seen a doctor and was diagnosed with mild tactile sensitivity. So, I think my body will tell me the truth more honestly than my heart. When I first met you, I lightly touched your hand and ear, and I didn't feel uncomfortable or wrong. Now, I want to see if I can accept physical contact with you by touching you. If I can't handle it, then that's the answer. It won't be that way. You won't be uncomfortable. Jiang Ximing interrupted her. quickly removing his jacket and starting to take off his sweater. I've been working out a lot recently. I have abs but not too muscular and my skin is fair enough. You'll definitely like it. Originally, Wan Xiangyi hadn't given it much thought, but his words suddenly made it seem a bit ambiguous. Jiang Ximing, who usually spoke without thinking, realized he might have sounded a bit like he was showing off, especially since he was promoting himself. His face also reddened a bit. He cleared his throat and straightened his shoulders, saying, "Go ahead and touch." Only then did Wan Xiangyi lift her eyes to look at him. Indeed, as he said, Jiang Ximing had been working out. His muscles were firm and well-defined, showing a clear outline of abs, which gave him a captivating allure somewhere between a man and a boy. His fair skin, slightly flushed from nervousness, added to his charming appeal. Wan Xiangyi took a deep breath, trying to remain calm as she extended her hand. She cautiously traced his waist with her fingertips, feeling nothing unusual. Then she placed her whole palm against his waist and rubbed it gently. Jiang Ximing suddenly let out a soft groan. Startled, Wan Xiangyi tried to retract her hand, but he grabbed it firmly. His hand was very warm, making her face heat up as well. "I'll turn around. You can touch me again," Jiang Ximing said, his voice a bit huskier than usual. He turned away, his movements awkward. Wan Xiangyi was about to say something, but Jiang Ximing interrupted her. "This is a normal reaction," he said urgently, his voice unsteady. He squeezed her hand a bit tighter. "It's my first time liking someone, so I'm not very composed. But this is the little pride of a novice. I really like you. Just seeing you makes me flutter sometimes, let alone now. And, a guy's waist is generally quite sensitive. I've been controlling myself, but this is a normal reaction for guys, really." He repeated this several times, seeming afraid she wouldn't believe him. "Are you giving me a physiology lesson?" Wan Xiangyi's voice was a bit muffled. Jiang Ximing thought she misunderstood and, feeling awkward, tried to turn around but couldn't. His voice carried a hint of grievance. "As long as it keeps you from thinking of me as improper, I'm willing to give you a full lecture, from childhood to now, if necessary." "There's no misunderstanding," Wan Xiangyi said. Jiang Ximing was about to relax when she added, "Actually, I was going to ask if you're ticklish." Jiang Ximing's face turned red as he turned to look at her, seeing her struggling to suppress her laughter. He was left feeling both embarrassed and frustrated. "Put your clothes back on," Wan Xiangyi said to Jiang Ximing, who was now standing like an ostrich. Jiang Ximing pressed his head against the wall, motionless, unsure whether he was sulking or too embarrassed to move. After a long pause, he finally spoke up. "Aren't you going to touch me anymore?" Wan Xiangyi handed him his clothes. "No, I won't. I'm afraid you'll start another lecture." Jiang Ximing's self-reassurance crumbled, and his face turned red with embarrassment. Seeing Wan Xiangyi remain completely composed made him feel out of balance. "Why are you so calm?" Wan Xiangyi looked at him and said, "I was trying to spare you from feeling embarrassed." Jiang Ximing felt like crying but still managed to put on a strong front. "Well, if you're not going to touch me, then you've already seen everything, so you need to take responsibility." Wan Xiangyi murmured, so softly that it almost went unnoticed. "Did you agree?" Jiang Ximing asked, his eyes wide with uncertainty. When he heard her affirmation, he brightened up. "You agreed. Starting today, we're officially dating. No backing out, no takebacks." His childlike excitement contrasted with his earlier serious demeanor. Wan Xiangyi wanted to laugh, but held it in to avoid hurting his pride. She nodded seriously. Jiang Ximing was overjoyed, putting on his clothes with a big smile. "You don't know how nervous I was before coming here. Now I feel relieved, though I might still have trouble sleeping tonight because I'm so happy." His joy was infectious, and Wan Xiangyi felt a warm, long-lost feeling in her heart. She looked at him and suddenly called his name. Jiang Ximing turned his head. "What is it?" "Nothing," Wan Xiangyi replied, but then called his name again. Jiang Ximing, understanding her hint, leaned in with a playful tone. I want to hug you. I want to kiss you. Is there something you're not saying? Wan Xiangyi didn't admit it. No, you know I have issues with physical contact. Before she could finish, Jiang Ximing kissed her, saying, Yes, I know you have issues. I'm your remedy, your exception. Well, if he wants to be her remedy, her exception, then so be it. People in love should be close to each other. Later, when Jiang Ximing formally introduced Wan Xiangyi to Jiang Shiqing was surprised. Looks like a fool's luck indeed. Jiang Ximing grinned, while Wan Xiangyi said, He's not foolish. Jiang Shiqing raised an eyebrow. Oh, defending him already? Wan Xiangyi smiled and did not respond. Jiang Ximing kissed her on the cheek and, with a hint of challenge, told his elder brother, Don't you dare criticize me casually. My wife can't stand me being bullied by you. Jiang Shiqing snorted. That's all you've got? Jiang Ximing proudly said, The best thing I've ever done in my life is this. Jiang Shiqing covered his face. Sister-in-law, please be more tolerant. The goods have been shipped and can't be returned. Wan Xiangyi was very satisfied. No returns or exchanges. Jiang Ximing pouted. You're not allowed to gang up with him to bully me. Both responded in unison, shut up. Later, when their kissing photos were leaked, Jiang Ximing's identity was deliberately concealed. Online rumors spread, claiming he had advanced in his career through underhanded means, only able to debut with Wan Xiangyi as his photographer. Jiang Ximing didn't shy away from the rumors. He boldly posted on Weibo at Wan Xiangyi, seeking under-the-table rules. Wan Xiangyi, who rarely posted, quickly responded at Jiang Ximing, okay. Jiang Shiqing also quickly stepped in. Let me introduce at Jiang Ximing, my younger brother, at Wan Xiangyi, my sister-in-law. We're family. The rumors were quickly debunked, and the public, initially scandalized, soon rallied around in support and blessings. Jiang Ximing had the opportunity to capitalize on this publicity, but he chose to step back from the limelight to focus on working behind the scenes, wanting to avoid outside disturbances and concentrate on earning a living and taking care of his wife. Wan Xiangyi had no objections. She liked and accepted him just the way he was. Jiang Shiqing felt hurt as his investment in publicity had yet to pay off. But what could he do? They were family, after all, and would continue to care for each other.